A very good afternoon, a very good morning, and a very good evening, wherever around the world you're tuning into this live stream broadcast from. Namaste, my name is Nishit Kotak. I am here with the team from Hindu Academy. Welcome. If you are new to joining our discussion, let me just explain to you how this broadcast usually runs. So, This broadcast runs for about 1 hour. We start at 2 o'clock every Saturday, UK time. And today's live stream, we're going to be focusing on a topic, which is spirits and ghosts in Hinduism. So our live stream session, which will last about an hour, will start off with a short video, which will be on the focus topic of the day. And following this video, we will have a panel discussion with our resident experts. Today, we have Seethaben and Manish Bhai, who will share their insights and answer your questions. Unfortunately, today we don't have Vijay Bhai. He's away at a family event, but we will see him next week. So viewers, we encourage you all to participate actively in today's live stream session. Please share in the live chat wherever you're watching us. And don't hesitate to share your thoughts, your comments, and your questions on today's focus topic, which is spirits in Hinduism. So once again, welcome to today's live stream broadcast. And let me share the focus topic video, and I will be back with you shortly.
Does Hinduism believe in spirits and ghosts?
Yes, we do. The thing is, if we say there are different levels of existence, we agree with that. There are different levels. For example, just as we operate in this world, according to Hinduism, we operate at the same level of the Mahat or the mind, the cosmic mind. So we're using the same cosmic mind, but individualizing it. That's why we agree with the nature of reality. Oh, there's a chair, there's a table. We can agree because we are using the same, if you like, the cosmic mind to relate to reality. But this cosmic mind is just one layer of reality. There can be other levels of existence. We believe in that. And we always believed in this. We talk about Pitrulok, we talk about Devalok, we talk about Brahmalok. So there are different levels of existence. We agree with that. Now, so what about ghosts? We say that when somebody is perhaps left this body, but somehow is still kind of very strongly tied up with the world that is left behind, he's in a limbo land. So he's not able to kind of reincarnate, enter another lok, but he's in a way kind of, moving in and out of this particular realm. Now this we believe is true. So there are ghosts according to us, but again the health warning comes with it. Why do you want to indulge in the idea about ghosts, etc.? You got living people in front of you, interact with them rather than interact with people who passed away or trying to interact with you. Just deal with the living people, my friend, rather than try and get caught up with this kind of people who passed away and yet who are kind of zigzagging between this life and another life.
Brilliant. So what an interesting topic to get into. So thank you, Ben. Thank you, Seethaben and Manish Bhai, for joining us today. Bear with me one moment. Let me spotlight and here we go. So welcome to today's broadcast. To kick off our panel discussion, let's begin by exploring the foundation of Hindu beliefs regarding spirits and ghosts. So Seethaben, could you please share with us your thoughts on how Hinduism views the existence of supernatural entities and how they fit within the broader framework of, say, Hindu cosmology and beliefs?
Yeah, so it's an interesting topic for sure. I think, as Dad has said in the video, We have our current plane of existence where we have physical bodies and a physical world. What Hinduism does believe in is that there are other planes of existence where people exist in a different way, not in a physical form, but in a different form, in a different sort of level of energy vibration, for example. So there is nothing in Hinduism which says, this is the only plane of existence. There are other levels of existence. But the important thing to remember is that we shouldn't become sort of, in a way, morbid and just think about ghosts and supernatural spirits all the time, because, that's probably not good for us. It's not healthy to think about that kind of thing all the time. As Dad said, we've got so many millions of physical live human beings to interact with. Why don't we focus on that? So it's important to sort of keep the right perspective. But having said that, we do believe that there are souls out there who may be lost. Maybe they're very attached to the world that they have left behind. And they may just want to sort of hang around for a bit. And obviously, we believe in the idea of reincarnation. So it's not as soon as you die, you're completely finished. There is something that continues to live on. And perhaps that soul is attached to their family or their surroundings, which they were used to. And they may possibly hang around. We don't know for sure. So that's the thing. And the thing is, you may also get this idea of spirits who are there to watch over you and guide you, sort of like guardian angels, that kind of thing. And in a way that gives a sort of comfort to people, saying that, this physical plane, I'm sort of struggling and I need some help. Perhaps you can get some help from some benevolent spirits, maybe, who can guide you and maybe open up opportunities for you, possibly. But again, we have to sort of keep a level head and a rational head with these kind of things and don't get too carried away. We do the best we can in our current plane of existence, but try not to think too much about the supernatural, because it's probably not a healthy place to be, because you may get good spirits, but you may also get not so helpful spirits as well. And if we focus our mind on that, maybe we'll attract them to us, so we don't really want to get involved in that. So it's interesting to think that is possible, but it's better to focus our energies and our attention on the living world. Manish Bhai, his thoughts?
Yes, a very interesting topic today, and yes, ghosts. So I think it's normally people who have unfulfilled desires and somehow cannot switch off from that life that they've just left behind. They sort of hang around in that limbo state until they kind of find a resolution to move on. And I've not had a ghost experience, but I read in Kathamrita and lives of Swami Vivekananda, and they do confirm that such spirits do exist. Also read about, the Devalok and stuff, and what I think Hinduism, some of the scriptures are saying is, if you are very good and you do good actions, then actually you can reach that level of devas and be in that position as well. And that's why in some of these Puranic stories, when some rishis do very high, spiritual top, then Indra gets scared that, oh, my position, I may lose my position to this particular rishi, and they try to disrupt them. So that, and I think other planes of existence, we talk about Brahmalok or Sivalok or, Vaikunt for the Vaishnavas. And it's probably that if when you're dying and you are in that state of devotion, then it's likely that you reach there and spend certain time in that sort of plane where you get like-minded people and you spend time there admiring your particular deity. So it's a wonderful thing. And in a way, it's kind of all linked to the desires we have. And if it's unfulfilled, that causes this problem.
Fabulous. So my question was going to be to Manish Bhai to share with us the various legends and stories in Hindu scriptures that involve spirits and ghosts and how they help us understand better the role they play in the lives of devotees, for example. So thanks for sharing that. So as we delve deeper into this really interesting topic, we encourage our viewers to continue sharing their thoughts, comments, and questions in the live chat. Your participation does enrich this discussion and brings a fresh perspective to the table. So once again, thanks Sitaben and Manishbhai for being here. Let's begin our discussion on spirits and ghosts in Hinduism. So, Sitaben, you looked at the role of spirits and ghosts in Hindu mythology, and we talked about how there are possibly different planes of existence. So that's one way I would say that Hinduism stands apart from other regular or religious traditions. They don't have this sort of a concept. It's either here or there, in the concept of heaven and hell, more or less. But is there any other thing that, in Hinduism, that we have a different approach to spirits, ghosts, or other realms of existence? Like, can you share a little bit about how we say, we got Trilok, for example, and we have different other levels of devtas and so on. And these are all different people on different levels of existence, I suppose.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting topic. Something that also it reminds me of is when people have near-death experiences, it's actually a fascinating sort of entry or doorway into seeing what happens to you after you pass away. Because a lot of these people, they're declared to be clinically dead, and they go through this tremendous experience where they feel they are so present and so there, even though they are physically completely switched off. There is no heartbeat, there is no brain activity, but they seem to know exactly what is going on. They can sort of hear doctors and nurses around them saying, oh, this person has passed away, and they can see and hear their family members crying. And they also, all of them, funnily enough, describe a very sort of similar experience, which is where they sort of see a tunnel of light, and they sort of travel through this tunnel of light, and at the end of it, they may well see relatives who have passed away. And this kind of ties in a little bit with what Hinduism says, is that there is this sort of plane of existence called Pitrilok, which is where your ancestors live. And perhaps it's a lovely chance to meet your family and friends who have passed away, your loved ones. And possibly you may choose to spend a long period of time there with your relatives who have passed away, because obviously you want to catch up with them and see how things are going and see what's happening with them. So yes, I think probably from the Hindu perspective, and also ties in with this near-death experience, that a lot of people may choose to spend time with their ancestors and their family who have passed away. But then Hindu philosophy says that there are some individuals who, for them, this is not enough. They want to go higher, and they may enter like a more sort of divine state of existence where there are more higher beings like devas and devis, and they may sort of become part of that group of individuals. And perhaps that sort of ties in with this idea of guardian angels and very positive, benevolent spirits out there who are kind of watching over us, making sure we're okay and helping us on our journey somehow or other. I don't know how, but it's just all speculation, really. So there's different planes of existence. And as Manishbhai said, suppose, you have a particular love for a particular deity, a form of God. Perhaps you'll be lucky enough to catch a vision of that image of that deity. You may be able to come face to face with that deity, which would be an absolutely mind-blowing experience. Who knows? I mean, we don't know until we go there ourselves what's going to happen to us. But yeah, it's interesting. And reading from the works of Swami Vivekananda, for example, he does actually mention that, for example, when you practice yoga and the disciplines that come around yoga, not the physical exercises, but the mental disciplines, the mental exercises, you are then able to sort of exercise greater power of your mind. And through that greater power of your mind, you somehow bring your mind to a certain level of vibration where you may be able to see these relatives who have passed away, you may be able to see these higher beings and sort of interact with them. But obviously, this is not the ultimate goal of yoga. The ultimate goal of yoga is to become enlightened. But this is perhaps like a side effect of having that greater control over your mind. So who knows? I guess we all have to sort of give it a try and see what we can discover. Manish bhai?
Yes, I think Sitaben, you explained really well. Nothing much to add. I think there is a lok called Yamlok as well, and Yama is believed to be the first person who died. He became the god of death and collector of people who dies in a way. So yeah, it's just interesting fact, and I think it's all in a way linked to the desires and desires that everyone has, and that somehow takes us to where we go at the end of life and into another life as well.
Interesting topics. So just because we have not yet conclusively proven or seen or established if there is another level of existence, doesn't mean it is not out there. There were so many things that we initially thought. People thought the earth was flat at one point. It obviously isn't, but that was just as you progress and you find out more, you will come to a different level of understanding of how things work. At the moment, we are where we are, and we go on with what we have. But it is important to keep on questioning and exploring and seeing what really is life all about. So, when we come to this, in what ways do Hindu beliefs about spirits and ghosts promote a deeper understanding of the cycle of life, death, and rebirth? That was an important part of our belief as well. So Manish bhai, let's start with you this time.
So yes, it's I think Hindus have accepted that there may be these beings, and we come across some people who are able to communicate with these dead people, and they sometimes can invite their those spirits in their body as well. So how it's so we have this idea of Swarg, Nark, and reincarnation. So heaven and hell, Swarg and Nark, is kind of temporary plane where you could reach based on your life and experience and mindset, and you could spend certain time, and these may involve some of these lokas that we talk about. Sitaben, do you want to expand more on that?
Yeah, I think what the sort of, for example, near-death experiences, I guess, is the closest scientific evidence we have to anything continuing to exist after a person passes away. That, and also the sort of, the experiments done by Professor Ian Stevenson, where children are able to vividly recall a previous life. I guess that's the closest in terms of scientific evidence that we have that something does continue to exist after the body passes away. And it's a very ancient belief, not just shared, by religions of the Indian subcontinent. It's been across the world. There were so many ancient civilizations around the world which believed in the idea of reincarnation. The ancient Greeks and the ancient Jews, the ancient Romans, the Vikings, pagans, all of these people believe that something does continue to exist after the body passes away. And I think that's really fascinating that people from around the world have all sort of come to a similar way of thinking. It's only recently, I guess, that, things have changed and we've got more sort of atheistic perspectives where after a person is dead, that's it. There's no more to it. But a lot of these ancient beliefs do sort of suggest the possibility that there is something that continues. So I totally do think that there is something that continues to live. But I think it's very important that for our spiritual journey and for our spiritual progress, you can't just stay in this sort of dreamlike state for very long, because you need to sort of have a human form and carry out your spiritual progress, because in that sort of very dreamlike, hazy state, you're kind of living in a very sort of in a different plane of existence where you can't make that same level of spiritual progress that you can when you have a physical human body. So I think it's really important that whenever we do get reborn, we carry on our spiritual practice, because this is the best place to make progress and eventually become enlightened, and eventually not have to worry about what happens to us afterwards. We are ultimately there. We are at that place of freedom, which is what we are all hopefully aiming towards.
Fabulous. Interesting. So how bear with me one moment. I just got the question for us here. How does Hinduism's focus on inner transformation and spiritual growth address the fear or fascination with spirits and ghosts?
Yes, I mean, I think it's a more healthy approach to not think about the supernatural too much in our day-to-day lives. But I guess it can also give us comfort in death as well. Suppose you've got somebody who's very close to you who has passed away. It can be a great source of comfort to know that that person hasn't been completely snuffed out. There is a part of them that continues to exist, probably in a way, the most important part of them, because the physical body is only, the outer shell in a way. The real person is, the non-material side of it. And that is something that continues to exist. And that's why, especially during Hindu funerals and cremation, verses are read from the Bhagavad Gita, which talk about the eternal nature of the soul. And hearing that when you're grieving can be incredibly comforting. So I think it's really important that we remember that. And in a way, it gives perspective to life. It reminds us that, our physical plane of existence, we get so caught up in it in our day-to-day lives. We think that this is all that there is. But actually, when you have these jolts, when you have somebody close to you pass away, in a way, it kind of gives perspective to life. It says that, look, we think that this life that we've got here and now is permanent and it's going to last for a long time. But it may not last for very long. So in a way, it kind of jolts us into thinking, let me do the best that I can in my life, in my spiritual progress. So it jolts us in a way. Death in a way gives perspective to life. And I think it's wonderful that we have this belief of reincarnation, which says, don't worry, if you haven't got there, it's not the end of the world. You'll still get another chance next time to carry on, to pick up from where you've left off. So I think having this belief that there is something that carries on and that you can come back and continue your spiritual journey can be something incredibly comforting. Manish, right?
Yes, it's very interesting. Alice Sebastian saying her mom had experience of this kind. Arise, Awake, Win is talking about, is soul the reflection of God. And as Sitaben just said, talked about Atman. And Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 is all about that. And Sankhya Yoga by Kapil Muni talks about that nature of Atman. And if we go into that, it is said to be eternal and not born and never dies and is present all the time. And is it reflection of the God? Yes, of course. It is our true nature is divine, as Jaibai said time and again. And the goal of our life is to experience that state. And when we experience that state, all these desires fall away, and that means it's you remain in a kind of calm state where you don't need to reincarnate because all your desires are fulfilled in a way, or you feel so fulfilled that you no longer feel the need to have any of these planes of existence. You just remain in calm, wonderful state, I suppose.
Fabulous. So yes, Ali was sharing an experience that her mother had at one point, where she had somebody, like a vision sort of somebody who visited her when she was traveling somewhere. But this brings into play a very interesting topic, which is the significance of dreams and visions in Hinduism and their potential connection to the spirit world. Because a lot of people say, I had a vision of this, maybe their favorite deity, or they're getting blessings or something amazing, and they feel it's so hyper realistic. They feel like they were there in the moment, but it was just something in their brain, obviously. They were asleep the whole time. But could this be a connection to this other plane of existence we're talking about, Sitaben?
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic, actually. And I think I know I've had discussions with Dad about this, because I've had some kind of dreamlike experiences where they feel so incredibly vivid and real. And I've spoken to Dad about it. I'm like, Dad, what is this? And, he was saying that, the vast majority of our dreams are just our brain's sort of garbage dump, basically, all the thoughts that we've had in the day, all sort of garbled together. So a lot of those dreams are not significant, but once in a while, the odd occasion, you will get this incredibly vivid dream which feels so real, like to the point where you can sort of experience and remember everything. Because a lot of the time, these garbage dreams, you tend to forget what even happened. Half the time when you wake up, you've forgotten half of what it was. But with these vivid dreams, you seem to remember an incredible amount of detail. They seem so incredibly real, and when you wake up, you just think, oh, I feel so uplifted. I feel so happy. My whole day is made because I've had some connection with somebody through my dream. And what Dad often said is that on those once in a while dreams, usually it is because your mind is very powerful. A lot of the time it's just sort of clearing out garbage, but your dreams can sometimes lead to a level of intuition which your conscious mind is not able to sort of access to or relate to. It's not logical. So your conscious brain is switched off when you're sleeping. So it's time for your intuition in a way to sort of kick in, and you get an incredible depth and incredible insight into something which is so awe-inspiring, and it will stick with you for the rest of your life. It's something incredibly powerful. And my dad always said, write those dreams down, make sure you don't forget them. You can always refer back to them. And you may sort of come across individuals who have passed away. You may come across higher beings. You may come across gods and goddesses, which is absolutely beautiful. Those kind of experiences are so beautiful. Sometimes I wake up crying because they are so incredibly beautiful, and you have to sort of write them down. And you know in your heart, you don't need to go and verify it. You know in your heart that this is a beautiful experience that I've had, and I must write it down and remember it. So I think once in a while, dreamlike state can sort of give this window into this level of intuition, this higher reality, basically, which is a beautiful experience. Management?
Yes, very well put, Sitaben. So in dreams, there are different states, and there's a dreamlike state, and in deep sleep, we reach that state of Atman in a way, which is when we are unaware of what's happening. And there's a story of, Janaka Raja and his vivid dream that it is, I think, part of one of the Upanishads, quite a story that he had such a vivid dream, and then he's questioning whether that was real or this life that I'm leading is real. And that leads him to Astavakra, who then guides him to say, okay, that was to explain that neither that was real nor this was real. What is real is you are there, you were there, and so you were real. And that fourth state that they call, which is existence in all four states of awake, sleeping, and deep sleep. And the fourth state is combination of all this, is what is real. So, and Sri Ramakrishna also talks about, he's asked some of the people, did you, see any dreams? And some people actually were instructed by Ramakrishna in their dreams. They got a Guru Mantra in dreams as well. And that was kind of real for them. So dreams do have very good role in a way, and can lead us to very good spiritual growth in terms of Janaka Raja's story.
Fabulous. So that brings us to a question from one of our regular viewers, Charmaine. Charmaine's asking that, can a soul in limbo attach itself to another body? So in short, can a person be possessed? Now, before we answer that question, I have the follow-up question, which is A, about being possessed, and then number two, we have this thing around the world in many cultures about exorcism rituals and ceremonies. How do these kind of things impact individuals and communities? I mean, I was looking at, for example, witchcraft, and in the years from like 1400 to about 1700, it is said that nearly 9 million witches died in the years of these persecutions, and so that's where people don't really understand. They don't want to accept, there's a very interesting topic to explore. I do know we've got the concept of voodoo from the other cultures around the world and so on. What are your perspectives on this? Is it possible that that somebody can be possessed, and then is there something that somebody has the power to exercise this spirit from the body?
Yes, I mean, I guess we don't know how these metaphysical forces work. So I guess in a way, perhaps it is possible. I mean, I guess you don't know until maybe you've gone through that experience yourself, but hopefully it's something that nobody will experience, because it doesn't sound very nice to have your body taken over by another spirit. It's probably not a very healthy place to be. And in terms of, people who try and get rid of it, perhaps that's possible. To be honest, I don't know. And to be honest, I also think it's not a very healthy thing to want to have done to you. And hopefully it doesn't happen to anybody, because you want to be in control of yourself. You don't want to be sort of possessed by another spirit who you have no idea who they are. They could be a good benevolent spirit, they could be a bad spirit. How do you know? I don't know. I mean, it all sounds a bit scary to me. And I mean, my sort of perspective is it's probably better to sort of stay away from that kind of thing rather than sort of indulge in it too much. And you get all of these people who try and sort of channel people's spirits into them, and as a way to talk with relatives who've passed away. I mean, but my opinion is that doesn't sound very healthy. I'd rather sort of focus on something a bit more healthier and better for us, rather than having somebody take over your body. It just sounds a bit scary to me. And in terms of Nishitbhai, what you're saying about witchcraft and all of that, that's also a really interesting subject. Who knows? I mean, it's difficult, because a lot of these people were obviously persecuted, all in different parts of the world, in America and the Salem trials and everything. And, witchcraft was condoned and all of that. But who knows, perhaps these were individuals who are performing sort of spiritual practices. We don't know exactly what they were doing. Perhaps it was something very positive that they were doing, but because it didn't fit in with the framework of what religion and spirituality was in that community, it was looked down on and they were persecuted. So who knows? I mean, we don't know what practices they were really doing. These people who are accused of being witches and performing witchcraft, we don't really know. But I guess, yeah, in terms of having spirits possessing you, I don't think that's a good idea.
Very, 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 very sound answer. One that I'm happy to accept, because we don't really know the real thing. and the thing is, imagine having somebody trying to exercise you, your body, of the spirit that's in you. And then what's to say you might nudge your soul out and have the other one just take over? You never know these things. I don't believe in these things at the moment. But it's interesting to explore, because the people who get involved with these kind of things, they get very heavily involved in these kind of things. And I've heard discussions of people talking about these kind of things. So that's something I thought I would bring up and share. Ali, our regular viewer, is asking, is there a Hindu perspective on the feeling of deja vu? We've all had it. The feeling that I've seen this before, I've been here before. or I've seen this, is precognition or deja vu. How does Hinduism view this? Is there anything like that that we really do have a handle on this?
Yes, I mean, actually, I mean, it's something that I've had as well. You suddenly sort of get a jolt and you think, I feel like I've been here before. And it's such an odd feeling. And, I've asked my dad about it as well. I've talked to Dad about all these things. And he said that possibly in a previous life, you may have had an experience which was similar to that experience. Suppose you're in a forest or something and you get this tremendous jolt that I feel like I've been here before. Perhaps in a previous life, if some kind of memory is triggered of you being in a forest in a previous life and having a similar sort of experience. So it's very fascinating, very interesting, and it does tie in with possibly this idea of reincarnation, that you may have, you suddenly go to the sea and then you're like, oh, I've been here before, but in this life you have never been there before. And where does that experience come from? Perhaps who knows, perhaps in your previous life you did actually go to that same spot by the sea, or you did actually go to that same forest. And somehow in your sort of unconscious mind, it's triggered that memory, because a vast majority of our past life is sort of lying hidden in our unconscious. So who knows, perhaps being there in that experience will say, oh, hang on, I've been here before. So who knows? I mean, in a way, it possibly does tie into the idea of reincarnation. I don't know if Manish Bhai has any thoughts on that.
I have no idea. I have had a similar experience, Sita Ben, but I have no idea about deja vu and what is the explanation behind them, to be honest.
Brilliant. So folks, thank you so much for joining us today. You've been wonderful, and we've been discussing this interesting topic of ghosts and spirits in Hinduism. I want to conclude this topic for this side, and I want to carry on with the rest of the general Q&A. So what I'd like to do is just encourage you to share your thoughts, comments, and questions on any other general topics on Hinduism in the chat area where you're watching us live from. I'll kick off with the first question of the day, which is from Alan Don Taji, another regular viewer. He's asking, can you explain more about Hindu marriage and how does Hinduism view divorce?
So Hindu marriage is a way to get two people to share their life and get into Grihasthashram, where their goal is to earn money, have progeny children, and progress towards their spiritual life. And the marriage ceremony is very elaborate, where there are, ritual involved. You go around the fire 4 times or 7 times, depending on the customs you follow. And there are vows to be taken to make sure that you live for each other and look after each other and, be a good family unit that can support the society and progress, make your spiritual progress as well. And divorce in traditional Hinduism, people, I think if they had problems, they did separate, but then there was no concept of divorce. But in modern days, Hindus do get divorced, and if they're not happy with each other, it is better if they feel they're not compatible, then use the legal process to divorce is fine. Sita Ben?
Yeah, I completely agree. So, I mean, the marriage ceremony is a beautiful ceremony, and it's got a tremendous amount of symbolic significance to it. And there's a whole series, as Manish Bhai said, of steps that the husband and wife take together, and they take the vow of being lifelong friends. And they also take the vow of supporting each other on their spiritual journeys, which is a beautiful thing. And we have to make sure that during a marriage, it doesn't just fall apart for the sake of nothing. You know, they have to compromise with each other. They have to learn to live for each other rather than sort of saying, oh, it's all about me, me, me. When you're in a marriage, you have to always think about the other person. You have to think about your children and your family. So it really, in a way, it's a great place to practice spirituality because you're putting the needs of other people before yourself. But having said that, you know, obviously people do get divorced all around the world. And, you know, for Hindus as well, it does happen. And we have to sometimes recognize that sometimes in a marriage, you may find that there are irreconcilable differences, and it's just going to cause a great deal of misery by staying together. So we have to sort of, sometimes people need to take that step of saying, perhaps we should part ways. Obviously, it's a very difficult step, and you know, there's a lot of issues around that, but hopefully society is starting to become more open to the idea that sometimes this is a possibility. And in previous sort of generations, there were obviously lower rates of divorce. And a possible reason, I'm just speculating, a possible reason is that, you know, few sort of 30, 40, 50 years ago, the women were not financially independent. So they felt in a way trapped in the marriage, because where will they go if they have no income? But now things have changed dramatically, and women are actively involved in the workplace. They are more financially independent. So they've, in a way, now got greater freedom to step away if things are not working out.
Fabulous. That's a really interesting answer. Manish, we have a question from Narayani, another viewer of ours. The question is, will any avatar really come in this yug? Now, in the concept of time, this yug is a very long time scale. I don't believe we have to worry about this issues in our lifetime. We have a very short span in the grand scheme of things. But what would you advise, Narayani?
Yeah, so interesting question. And Jaibai time and again said this concept of yuga is a Puranic idea. So there are question marks about it. But if you think about yuga as a particular time period, you know, we live in times that are continuously changing. Well, what our parents lived through, they were in different times. We are in different time. Our children will have a different kind of life, different kind of rules. And it's like there is constant change going on. So in that sense, Yug can be interpreted as a age. And what do we call avatar? Avatar is somebody who is able to help people progress spiritually. And I believe there is always some people who have the spiritual experience. So in all the ages, there is always somebody there who's spiritually advanced and who is able to help other people. And I think when you reach that spiritual state when you are ready for that kind of spiritual progress, this kind of people enter into your life and they help you out, make further leap into spiritual progress. So it's a wonderful thing. And I do believe there are people, always people around who are spiritually advanced and can help people. So there are, and as Jaibai said, everybody is an avatar in a way. So yes, so in that sense, there is avatar throughout the ages, I think. What's your take on this, Itamit?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, if we're talking about the avatars as in the 10 avatars, we have to obviously remember that the story of the 10 avatars is part of the Hindu mythology. But what it does is we learn a lot of important lessons through those stories. So it's important to acknowledge and recognize them. But yes, I think what's so beautiful about Hinduism is that we are not stuck with just one particular prophet or saint, and that's it. There's no leeway, there's no room for anything else. In Hinduism, we constantly refresh the message of spirituality throughout the ages to sort of reflect the needs of society at the time. And that's why in Hinduism, there are so many prophets and saints and spiritual giants who continue to support humanity to make spiritual progress. And We've got prophets who lived 50, 100 years ago, very recent individuals who can help us and guide us on our spiritual journey. So I think we're incredibly lucky. Individuals who can speak to us in English and not just in ancient Sanskrit. So I think that's a really beautiful thing. But as Manish Bhai said, obviously, Hindu philosophy focuses on the idea that we are all divine, we are all spirit. So why not sort of empower ourselves, give ourselves credit and say, look, hang on, we are also spirit too. So maybe we can help each other on our spiritual journeys. So we like to think of all of us as avatars.
Amazing. So we have another question from a viewer 64 Dimensions. And he's asking that in what state of mind or consciousness should we read the Vedas or listen to them? He says that I understood the Vedas are beyond my intelligence. I tried to perceive it, but I can't do it fully. Any help in understanding these would be appreciated. So do you have any tips or tricks?
Yes. So basically the guidance is that, first of all, you should look at your Shruti, which is your scriptures of authority, read them. The next thing, which is very important, is Yukti, which means use your rational faculties to make sense of what you have learned. So rationality is very, very important. So make sure you read it with an open mind, try and make sense of it. And the next bit, which is the most important bit, is Swanubhuti, which means actually experiencing it for yourself. And I think that really sort of reflects the different dimensions of consciousness, because by the time when you read the scriptures, you are using your current conscious state of awareness to make sense of it. But what the scriptures show us is how to sort of take a leap from the conscious into a more super conscious state. That is the state where you can actually have a spiritual experience for yourself. And that is where you sort of take the leap from sort of intellect and intellectual rationalizing towards intuition and actually a much deeper understanding, which your realm of logic is actually very limited. We think, logic means everything, everything must fit into our box of logic. And to a certain extent, that has been very helpful to humanity. It helps us to make sense of the world around us. But when you sort of try and have a spiritual experience for yourself, you realize the limitations of your logic and your reason, and you step into a more sort of superconscious state, Atichetan, superconscious state, where you see the limitations of logic and reason, and you see a much deeper understanding which cannot fit within the context or the realm of your limitations of your logic. So it's very interesting. You use your logic. It's a beautiful tool to help us understand. But in order to make that final leap, to really genuinely understand what the scriptures are talking about, you need to enter this state of super consciousness. And that's what yoga is all about, is helping us take that leap from the conscious state to the super conscious state. Manish?
Very well explained, Sitaben. Yes, so I think if you're starting out in study of Vedas, then maybe a good idea to get into a book that is explaining what Vedas is all about, and first of all, understand what they are about in sort of overall general, in simple terms. And then if they, interest you more, then you get further into reading chapter by chapter, verse by verse. So in that sense, I've come across this book by Rupa Pai, Vedas and Upanishads for Children, and that sort of gives a good general guide as to what Vedas and Upanishads are all about, and explain the terms in Vedic terms in simple English. So if we start by just going to Sanskrit and try to understand it verse by verse, it may be putting off, and you need to have that conscious level of understanding of Sanskrit and terms, Vedic terms, to understand that. So starting off with such a book as a first step may be helpful, and then maybe later on, if you're very keen on it, then you can progress further, I think.
Fabulous. So now I'm going to come around to a series of questions that are on a topic I really enjoy digging into. Over the past couple of months, we've all heard about these artificial intelligence tools that have come about, and how some people are claiming that it is going to be more significant than the discovery of fire or farming and things like that. And I have no doubt that there will be a big disruption coming ahead. But in the next maybe couple of years, we are likely to have a sentient AI. So I'm going to ask some questions which are intriguing for me. Hopefully, the panel of experts here can help me out. Please feel free to say, I don't know, because this is a new thing. So nobody knows their way around these things. But how can the concept of Atman or soul in Hinduism be applied to a sentient AI? Or is it only limited to biological beings? So something that can think for itself, has feelings, understands things, but is not human.
That's an interesting idea for sure. I mean, so far in humanity's journey, we've only known sort of souls entering biological beings like animals and human beings. But who knows? As Nishit Bhai said, this is a whole new field that humanity is entering into. Who knows? Maybe there is a possibility that a soul can enter, rather than a biological body, can perhaps enter, artificial intelligence, some kind of sentient being. But to me, that thought sounds a little bit scary. It reminds me a little bit of all of these AI films that you see where robots sort of take over the planet, and that sounds a bit scary to me. So I'm secretly hoping that that's not really possible. And I'm hoping that souls can only enter biological beings and stay in the human realm. And actually, the more I think about it, I'm just thinking off the top of my head is, I don't know, there's something about the human body which has a brain, and it has something which a robot or an artificially created machine, somehow you can never quite replicate that. So perhaps it isn't possible, that because there's such a tremendous level of complexity in the human body. Perhaps it's not possible. How can you replicate that? It's an incredibly difficult thing. There's something very intangible about the human body. So perhaps it isn't possible. So I don't know. I'm open-minded. I don't really know.
It's certainly going to be an interesting ride, because recently I saw a photograph that won an award, and the award-winning photograph was actually created by an AI. So of course the creator declined to take the award, saying this is not real photography. I also saw an AI do the famous 6-word story challenge, and just with 6 words, it wrote a story about a mother who bought some boots for a baby, but then the baby got miscarried or something. And the level of emotion and connection that it had in what it wrote was amazing. So I have no doubt that at this moment in time, yes, you're right, they are not human. But at some point, the level of sophistication, the amount of knowledge that they have will be far superior to what we can ever hold in our brain. So for example,
isn't AI human-made programs, based on human-made programs, and it's a programming that's working behind to try to use the existing input it has, try to mix that up in a sense and put together some tangible answers. So in a sense, it can only produce what it has in its store. So if we think about concept of Atman, the most important thing, it is conscious, it is self-aware that I am alive, and if something kicks it, it kicks back. In that sense, AI, I feel, is not conscious of, not self-aware, and hence it is not at the level. And what Jai Bhai said is, until a brain or a biological system gets involved, that may not be possible. So, but Jai Bhai said that there is a research of using human brains and then try to use that and attach that with AI. There may be possibilities that such things happen.
So,
but
you're right.
Its own just a machine may not be possible.
Yep, there is no known, well, no declared sentient AI yet, but I am envisioning this is coming soon, sooner than people think. So I can see things like, for example, there's a company called DeepMind, one of the divisions of Google, and the person there who founded it at the age of 12 was the #2 world champion in chess. Their AI starts in the morning knowing nothing about chess. By lunchtime, it's beating him. By evening, it has created an AI approach to a chess strategy that has never been seen in the world before. No other person has ever created. And the way it does is by playing millions of variations of the games against itself and learning. And so, so it's interesting to explore. And I listened to an interview from the Google CEO, Sundar Pichai. And I looked at his perspective. You know, we talk about Hinduism and dharma. And he said that, I'm very aware of how this thing can develop. There's a potential role for a lot of mischief happening. And so his approach was to stop all advanced training at the moment until there's some regulation, some ideas of where things are going. What are the laws around this, the ethics around this? It's moving a little too fast and people are not prepared. Systems and government are not prepared for what disruption this could cause. So what I'm trying to say is that it's interesting to see the development, all of this, but it's also very key to see the people who are the driving force behind this. What are their ethics? Because they are the ones who are going to decide the direction of this. What are your thoughts, Seethaben?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, obviously with great power comes great responsibility. So I think that's a very wise approach from the Google CEO to make sure it's properly regulated. You can't just, it's like sort of, inventing a bomb. You can't just let it off without any precautions at all. So you have to do things extremely carefully. And even though it's absolutely incredible, I also find it a little bit scary that, there are ways that a robot can be so much more intelligent, so much more, can do things that the human mind is just not able to do. It's amazing, but also a little bit scary for me. And also you've got all this self-driving cars and all of this kind of thing coming up, which, I don't really know what I think about it. I just, in a way, I don't want it to get so to the point where humanity is so dependent on AI and robots and technology that we are just losing the ability to do things ourselves. There was a Disney film with, I can't remember what it's called, where little human beings are just floating around in little bubbles and they're completely useless and the machines are just doing everything for them. I really don't want humanity to turn into these blobs of nothing, not being able to do anything and having to rely on robots and machines for everything. So I don't want that to happen, Manish bhai.
Yes, Seethaben, but in a way it's happening with our smart devices taking over our lives, and we are spending more and more time using this kind of tools that are in a way AI running in the background. And so because their data is so huge, they have to have the algorithms running, which are not human in a way. So it is in a way affecting our lives now, and obviously this needs careful considerations, and people at the top does need to take full responsibility and understanding what's going on, because this can be very scary, as you were saying, Seethaben.
There we go. Thank you so much, our panel of experts. Nobody can say we don't. We're not afraid, of exploring contemporary issues like AI and Hinduism. So yeah, interesting session today as always. Thank you so much, folks, for joining us. I have to just give a quick shout out to all the viewers on the live stream channels for their wonderful contributions. They've made this discussion so much richer by sharing their feedback, thoughts, and questions. Before we close for the day, I'd like to just quickly share the quote of the day. And this is, again, one of my favorite ones, which is from Swami Vivekananda. And the quote is, "Arise, awake, and do not stop until the goal is reached." So with that, we would like to wish you a great week ahead. We look forward to seeing you at same time on Saturday next week, 2 p.m. British summertime. And with the team here, thank you very much, and we will see you on the next live stream.